Hello, class. Welcome to the week 2 unit. And in this week unit, we're going to talk a little bit about two main topics. The first topic that we're going to take a look at is user interaction. And then the majority of this weekly unit, we're actually going to be talking about something referred to as an if statement and some topics that sort of pertain to if statements. But first off, let's go ahead and take a look at this whole idea of user input or user interaction. So up until this point, when we've been working with a variable or some sort of value that's being stored in the computer's memory, that variable has been given some predetermined value. That is, we went into the Python code itself, we gave that variable a numerical value or some sort of value, and we ran the program and got some sort of result from that, which is great and all. Although there may be some situations where you want the user, someone using your program, to be able to put in a value for some specific variable and then have the computer perform some sort of operation with the value they type in. And if you think about some of the more advanced applications that you're probably used to using in everyday life, those have some sort of user interaction. That is, you, the user, are doing something to put values into the computer's memory or whatever the electronic device might be. It could also be a smartphone or a tablet, and then the device will then act on the interactions that you, the user, have, and then perform its operation, whatever that might be. So something as simple as touching the screen on an iPhone might give you some sort of response, like putting down a letter, like if you're sending a text message. But that's the whole idea behind user interaction. But the main thing that we're going to focus on is something that's much more simple and something that's much more geared to something a little bit more on the scientific side of things and developing Python programs. So the way that you set up these user interactions is this makes use of a function called the input function. And if you remember back to when we were talking about the print statements, it turns out that the print statement and the input function are pretty much the same identical setup, but there are a few subtle differences. And what I mean by that is when we had a print statement and we had some quoted segment in the print statement, it would literally print that information into the console for us to see. And as far as the actual setup goes, the thing that goes inside of the input statement is again another quoted segment. And how this is going to work is whenever the computer reaches an input function, it is going to treat what's inside the parentheses as if it were part of a print statement. And the program will actually hang and it will wait for something to be entered into the console before proceeding onward to whatever might come afterwards. So if we want to actually go ahead and demonstrate this, we can go ahead and launch this program that we have here. So you can see I have enter your name, which corresponds to the text that we have here. And you can see that the program or the console is waiting for me to type something into the console. And if I want to, I can go ahead and just type in my name. And you see it'll allow you to type what's in here. And the way that you actually complete this process is once you get done typing, you then hit the enter or the return key. And when you do that, then whatever you type into the console here, that information, that thing that you type in the console will actually go into the left-hand side of this equal sign here. So if what I said is true, then by typing out my name, again, this is what we started with, just nothing at all. But if I type out my name and I were to hit enter, then that would take this value right here, this thing that I just typed, and that will then go into the left-hand side of this equal sign. So again, just kind of like before, when we had the equal sign, the computer is going to evaluate what's on the right-hand side, take the result, and store it once on the left-hand side. So the evaluation and the storing process is actually sort of a two-step process now with the input function. So the evaluate part is display this text into the console and then wait for the user to type something in. And then whatever the user types into the console, that is the value that then becomes the result on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So by typing in my name, David, in this case, that will become the end result and what's on the right-hand side of the equal sign here, which therefore means that value will then go on whatever's on the left-hand side of the equal sign, in this case, a variable called the input. So in short, what I typed into the console, again, making sure I draw the distinction, this over here is the console. What I type into the console and then hit enter will then go in what's on the left-hand side. And here I'm just telling the computer to print out what gets stored in this variable called the input. So if what I said was true, then whatever I type into the console right now will also be what this print statement prints back to me when I go to hit enter. And when I hit enter, the program then proceeds onward to run what appears after the input that it encountered, and you can see we do in fact get that result here. Now, the thing about the input function, and this is something that confuses a lot of students that are new to this idea of user interaction and the way things are set up in Python, is when you're looking at what's going to influence the value of this variable on the left-hand side of the equal sign, that is this variable called the input, what you put in here is actually completely irrelevant. As far as the value that actually goes inside our variable here, what you put inside the input function is actually completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you put in here. What you put in here does not directly determine what gets stored in here. It's what gets typed in the console, and only what gets typed in the console that determines what exactly gets put on the left-hand side of the equal sign here. And I can actually demonstrate that by producing a result that looks similar to what we had before. So here I'm going to basically reproduce the same character sequence up here, but I want to go ahead and emphasize very clearly, I did not type anything in the console. I did not hit any keystrokes after running this program. So nothing has been typed into the console, which means if the logic that I said before holds, by typing nothing into the console, that means nothing gets stored in the input on the left-hand side of the equal sign, this variable on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So I didn't type anything into the console, and you'll see this print statement prints nothing out as a result of that. So again, what gets typed in the console is the only thing that actually influences what gets stored on the left-hand side of the equal sign here. It doesn't matter what you put in here. In fact, you can put absolutely nothing in here at all, and I could type the entire character sequence from scratch. So that entire thing that I typed, that's the value that goes in the left-hand side of the equal sign here, in this case, a variable called the input. And you'll see it will print out the exact same thing that we had before. So again, just to sort of reemphasize, because this is something that causes a lot of confusion, what you put inside this input function, which I have highlighted here, what you put inside that function has no direct bearing on what goes on the left-hand side of the equal sign. Or in other words, what you type in here, again, what I have highlighted, does not influence what's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. It's what you type in here, the console, that's what determines the value that goes on the left-hand side of the equal sign here. So I just want to make sure that's perfectly clear, and hopefully that will help to clear up any confusion that might be surrounding the input function. And there's also nothing special about this variable called the input. That can be any variable at all. So I could call this, in this case, I can call this x as long as I'm consistent about it, but I will get the same exact result that I started with. So here this is basically resetting the program to what it was at the very beginning. And here I'm just going to type in my name again. This time it will go in a variable called x. And here I'm just simply printing out what the x value of x is. So again, what I type in the console, so again, this is what I typed into the console. What I type in there, what I type in this console, that's what goes in the value of x here. And by doing that, we simply print out the value of x after we hit the enter key. That entry, what we type in the console, then goes into this variable on the left-hand side, and then we simply print out what the value of x is, which in this case is what I typed into the console. So in this case, we're receiving what's often referred to as just being textual input. The technical term for this is a string, which is something we'll talk about more in week 5. But if you want to receive some textual entry from the user when they go to run your program, then this would be the setup that you would want to use. And I'll actually go ahead and put this back the way it was. Now let's say that you wanted to get a numerical entry from the user. And that will involve a setup that looks something like what you see here. So I have the same input function that I have before, essentially, but I also have this extra bit, this int parentheses, and then that is all, and then the input function is encased within this entire thing that begins with int here. So this is the setup that you'll want to use for if you want to receive some sort of numerical entry from what the user types in. And this int function actually does something pretty specific, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the class. But for now, you can just sort of think of this as requiring the user to enter some sort of numerical value, more specifically an integer, which the computer will then act on. And just like before, this text right here does not influence the value of the age. It's what's typed in the console that influences these variables that lie to the left of the input functions. So if I want to run this whole program to completion, then I can do that. So again, I can enter David, and then I can enter my age here, 25, and you can see how the print statement, how all the values get put into these variables, and here I have this print statement down here printing out David is 25 years old because those are the values that I entered in the console. So another thing that's kind of nice to keep in mind, especially as it pertains to numerical inputs, some best practices. One, it's often a good idea, if it's not immediately understood, it's a good idea to include some sort of units when you go to fetch a numerical entry from the user, because, and this is especially true for the physical sciences, because say you're trying to ask for a temperature from the user, and the user is probably going to wonder, okay, is this temperature going to be in Fahrenheit? Is it going to be in Celsius? Is it going to be in Kelvin, or any of the other weird temperature units that are out there? So especially since we work with the physical sciences a lot, including the units somewhere in this input function is something that's kind of important to have there. In the case of getting an age from someone, that's usually not such a big deal because it's kind of understood that when you ask for someone's age, you're asking it in years. I don't know too many people that keep track of their age in, say, milliseconds or microseconds or whatever temporal units you might be dealing with. So in that case, there's not much consequence. But if you want to make sure the user knows, it's a good idea to include units in the program's output so that the user actually knows what they're typing in as far as, say, a physical quantity. So here you can see it actually tells me enter my age, and it tells me that the units are years in this case. So that way I know that the number I type in here is going to be treated as if the units are years. And another sort of best practice, and sometimes this is something that you have to worry about, whenever you're asking for a numerical entry within a specific range, it's a good idea to tell the user that the program is only designed to work for numbers that fall within a certain range. So an example of that might be some sort of grade for some sort of assignment. So typically when you're going to put in a grade for the assignment, the range is going to be between 0 and 100. Now, just the input by itself will not enforce that rule. So theoretically, the user could type in a negative number or a value over than 100, but at least you've got a message in your program somewhere telling the user that if they type something outside of this range, then the program might not do what they expect it to do, or you might run into some other problems. I don't know many professors that are evil enough to enter in negative grades, but if there's nothing else in the program to enforce that rule, then that is something they could type in. And if statements, which is a topic we'll talk about in the next video, is something that can be used to enforce such things. And also, it's a good idea to warn the user if typing in certain values will cause bad behavior or cause the program to behave erratically. So an example of this might be if you have a calculation that's involving a logarithm, then you probably don't want the user typing in negative numbers or a 0, because you try to take a logarithm of a number that's less than or equal to 0, then that logarithm may not evaluate correctly. It is possible to evaluate such logarithms, but usually that involves quantities that the computer usually can't handle very well. So just a little bit about some of the best practices when you're going to build programs that involve receiving numerical values. Those are just some things that you want to keep in mind so that the user knows how to best use your program. But that's going to do it for this first segment on an introduction to how to actually set up a program that can be put in front of someone else, and that someone else can enter values into your program, and then the computer can then do something with that. So that's just sort of a first look at that, and this will be something that we heavily emphasize or heavily work with in a lot of future assignments. So make sure that you understand what's going on. But that's going to do it for this first video. And in the next video, we're going to start actually talking about if statements. So with that, I will see you all in the next video.